Hi, I'm just a common man, and I feel that it is very important for Hindus to understand their religion first and not to consider any statements which comes from a human being, especially like a person known as Dr. Zakir Naik or Zakir Naik. I shouldn't say he is a doctor because I don't think he is qualified for that, because he is more into preaching and less into his profession, which is doctor. So anyways, after watching multiple videos of Dr. Zakir Naik, where he tries to convert Hindus into Muslim and talks about eating cow or the flesh of cow, he comes up with multiple quotes from different sacred books. Now, I'll one by one come up in the next videos that where he is wrong and how he is wrong, or where he has misled or misinterpreted the statements mentioned in the different sacred books. The first thing, let's talk about Manusmriti. He always talks about Manusmriti. Now, before I explain you what is Manusmriti, first let's talk about the chapter which he gives as the reference that why Hindus can eat flesh, cow flesh. Now, in Manusmriti Chapter 3, verse 271, the first statement which it says is 1 year with cow milk and milk rice. It never says about slaughtering the cow. Then the second statement it says from the flesh of a long-eared white he-goat, their satisfaction endures 12 years. Now, what is the reference of this particular quote? In Manusmriti, there is a chapter which explains that if there is someone dead in your family, then how the rituals are to be performed and how you can satisfy those people who has died, who are beloved to you. So the best way is to do havans or yajna. And here there are multiple things which can be sacrificed in the name of the person who has died in your family. So Dr. Zakir Naik continuously quotes about Manusmriti, especially about Manusmriti Chapter 3, verse 271. Now, if you search through the Wikipedia or if you search through the internet, it will talk about the first statement in the book. Manusmriti Chapter 3, verse 271, it says 1 year with cow milk and milk rice. It doesn't talk about slaughtering a cow. The second statement in the same verse is from the flesh of a long-eared white he-goat, their satisfaction endures 12 years. So here it does not talk about slaughtering a cow. Now this is the first point. The second point, he talks about Manusmriti, which is not considered as the sacred book by the Hindus, at least till now. If you search the Wikipedia of Manusmriti, you will find the details. How it spells M-A-N-U-S-M-R-I-T-I, Manusmriti. Now, to give the introduction, you will find the same things in the Wikipedia also, if you search through Google. It says the Dharma-sastras, particularly Manusmriti, stated by Anthony Reid, were greatly honored in Burma, Siam, which is Thailand, Burma, which means Myanmar, Cambodia and Java-Bali, which is Indonesia, as the defining document of the natural order which kings were obliged to uphold. This is one part. So it is not these areas where Manusmriti has got the honors does not belong within India or Bharatvarsh. The second is, I hold Manusmriti as part of Shastras, but that does not mean that I swear by every verse that is printed in that book describes as Manusmriti. There are so many contradictions in the printed volume that if you accept one part, you are bound to reject other parts that are wholly inconsistent with it. Nobody is in possession of the original or complete text. And this quote is being made by Mahatma Gandhi. The next point is, among the notable Indian critics of the text in the early 20th century was B.R. Ambedkar, who held Manusmriti as responsible for caste system in India. In protest, Ambedkar burnt Manusmriti, a bonfire, on December 25, 1927. While Ambedkar condemned Manusmriti, Mahatma Gandhi opposed the book burning. The latter stated that while caste discrimination was harmful to spiritual and national growth, it had nothing to do with Hinduism and its texts such as Manusmriti. Gandhi considered Manusmriti to include lofty teachings, but a text with inconsistency and contradictions, whose original text is in no one's possession. The next part, Vedas, Rig Veda, etc. proclaims great reverences for medical profession and the practice of medicine, and advise people to show love, respect and admiration for physicians, whereas Manusmriti looks down upon physicians and condemns their possession as despicable and seems to indicate that there should be no association and socializing with physicians. So you understand why we cannot consider Manusmriti as part of Vedas, because it is anti-Vedic. It is anti-Vedic. Manusmriti is anti-Vedic. Ved is the root of Hinduism. Only Ved, the four books which is known as Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sham Veda and Atharva Veda. These are the four books together known as Vedas. Moreover, Manusmriti appears to violate itself, as it advises people in a number of verses to not read and follow texts which are in contradiction of the Vedas. This I am reading from the Wikipedia of Manusmriti, available in Google. It is also considered as anti-Vedic. Manusmriti appears just to use the name Manu. Now Manu is the name which has been multiple times used in Vedas. So people think that since Manu in the Veda is also available in Manusmriti, that means that it is a part of Veda. But let us understand that one Ram or one Krishna, whom we call a saint or a god, can be also found in multiple families. There are so many people in India with the same name, which is Ram or Krishna. Doesn't mean that all of them are the same individual. So here Manusmriti appears just to use the name Manu. There were more than a dozen men, sages by that name, a kind of lineage in Guru system. And Manusmriti might not be the work of real Manu. It probably was compiled by someone else to propagate his own agenda by using the famous name Manu. Interestingly, Manusmriti also proclaims that Shudra should not read the Veda. They do not have the right to read the Veda, the Shudras. But that is also totally wrong and baseless according to Hindu theology. Practices and considering that some of the most revered Hindu Brahmins, Vedic scholars, sages and authors came from Sudra background. So Sudra is actually, among the caste system, Sudra are those who actually are considered as cleaners of the society, mainly, or the laborers, or people who actually cleans the toilets, who cleans the washrooms, who are engaged in pottery. These are the kind of people who are considered as Shudras, according to my knowledge. Of course, that can be wrong. So here it talks that Shudras are not allowed to read Vedas, whereas including sages like Valmiki, who composed the Ramayana, and Saja Vyasa, who is accredited with composing the Mahabharata and compiling the Bhagavad Gita, are also from the Shudra background. So you can understand that how Manusmriti contradicts with Vedas and Hindu religion, even if you do not, if you at all consider Hinduism as a religion. So many also say that the original Manusmriti content has been edited by the British during the British Raj. So this is all I wanted to talk about regarding Manusmriti. So when Dr. Zakir Naik is time and again talking about Manusmriti to demoralize, to break down the Hindus, to prove that they are following the wrong path, they should be eating meat, they should be sacrificing in the sense of slaughtering a living animal, they do not fall into that trap, because Manusmriti is not a sacred book considered by the Hindus. That is what I feel. And sacrificing in multiple areas, I'll be discussing those things later. Sacrificing does not always mean killing an animal. Sacrifice, the word sacrifice has been mentioned in Veda, in Mahabharata and in Ramayana. Ashwamedh Yagna or Yajna, Ashwamedh Yagna or Havans, or different kind of yajnas or havans performed. In Veda, Ramayana and Mahabharata, it talks about sacrificing different kind of materials, minerals, leaves, woods, including animals. But that sacrifice does not mean, or never ever mean, slaughtering an animal. That means sacrificing the ownership of that animal, which means donating the animal to the saint or to the priest in the name of God or in the name of the person regarding whom you are doing the yajna, or the dead person to whose soul you want to give satisfaction through the yajna. So sacrifice is never ever meant in Hindus as kurbani, which so-called Dr. Naik thinks. Kurbani and sacrifice, they have got inner meanings. Kurbani means slaughtering. Sacrifice means leave the ownership of that property, of that living being, of that living thing, of that living creature. Leave the ownership. Donate it to the poor. Give it to the priest. Donate it to the society. That is what it means. Let that animal be free in the name of God. That is what sacrifice means. You do not own that animal. That is exactly what sacrifice means. So I'll describe one by one what Dr. Naik says by quoting different verses and phrases from the sacred books in the next videos. Thank you for listening. Thank you.